Every day in British schools, pupils and teachers have to deal with conflict. So what strategies can you use to help resolve that conflict? A group of Sussex teachers have come together for training to see how they might improve pupil behaviour.
Every time that the matador waves a red flag, the bull does what? Charges.
There isn't a lot of instruction about how to deal with conflict, how to deal with difficult pupils. We spend a lot of time on your subject and delivering good practice within the lesson, but not actually on the behaviour and emotions of the pupils you're dealing with, which is fundamental to the learning taking place.
Conflict is something which is universal, it's something which every human being actually gets into. So it should be part of the curriculum for teachers in terms of teacher training and for young people themselves. The more educated we are around conflict, we are then able to make different choices, which doesn't mean it won't be conflict, because conflict is part of life. It's actually a creative dynamic. It's how you use it. With this workshop, what we hope to do is increase choice. Rather than what is not what's right or what's wrong, but how can we increase choice in the moment when people are dealing with conflict, which they're actually struggling with. And where are we?
In my office, in the P office.
The teachers role-play situations they experience as challenging behaviour. The trainer describes the behaviour as a red flag if it provokes the teacher to feel frustrated or annoyed.
It was totally unacceptable, and for that I'm going to have to put you in a detention, and I'd like to know, what you're going to do about it for the next lesson.
Can I go now?
Give a round of applause, please. We're actually looking at what we call triggers. What are the kind of things that actually get us into a gut reaction, that get us just to act in the moment without thinking things through, without looking at the consequences or responsibilities for our actions. So that's what we look at when we look at red flags. To look at them, name them, and then look at what other strategies we can put in place or explore to do things differently.
I've just walked into the classroom and they turn around and go, "Are we going to do something interesting today?"
You're trying to deliver a cover work to the class and you get somebody at the back of the room that repeats every word you say.
For me, it's when kids are reading or kids are reading out their work or speaking in class and other kids are talking, and I just find it so disrespectful. It makes my blood boil.
There's a particular people that springs to mind who has quite low self-esteem, has been generally quite good in my class, and then suddenly is very explosive, completely out of the blue, a side I haven't seen to, and I don't understand why. My situation, my take on it was, because it shocked me, I jumped straight in for the kill and thought, right, I really need to stamp this out. And actually, that fueled the whole situation to the extent that it ended up outside, big argument, and the whole thing hit gridlock.
So if your buttons are pushed, who has the power?
Person pushing it.
Right? If your buttons are pushed and you don't react, who has the power?
You do.
So but they may know, if I do this, so a miss will do that.
But how do you mean? We said don't react, how do you mean?
If my red flag is to, if you do a certain thing, it is to tell you to get out. That's all I need to do, that's whatever you do. And I know I don't want to be in the lesson. Guess what I'm going to do? Get out! If that's the red flag, and I know that works every time, I'm going to do that. I'm going to use what I know is your red flag to wind you up so I can get what I want. So now, I start doing it and you don't tell me to get out, but you tell me you're going to see me later, or you're going to tell me, I know why you're doing that. You want me to say, get out, but you're staying in my listening today. That's not being caught up in, he's waving it, get out! So you'll hear people say, oh, I just do it, or so-and-so made me do it, or, this is what I do when I'm angry. As opposed to thinking response, you're actually looking at what other strategies can you use. She looks upset, she's potentially angry. What else could be happening?
The trainer invites the group to suggest various reasons why someone might be holding their head.
All right, so call it our story. So if you put big story across everything. When we look at what we call FIDA, which is facts, interpretation, and decision and outcome, what we seek to look at is firstly that we don't actually act on facts. What happens is something happens and then we tell ourselves something about it. There's like a gap. So what we do is we fill the gap as human beings, and goes back to looking at, okay, what are the facts? What physically, literally happened? What interpretation did I place on what happened? What did I tell myself? What decision did I make based on that interpretation? Will I ever meet anyone again?
The workshop also explores possible underlying causes for conflict.
What we look at when we talk about the emotional impact, we look at the roots of conflicts, and we look at it, we call it underlying anger. So what we're looking at is what actually happens really. It's what we see people display. We may see them go quiet. That's one thing people display. We may see them shouting at the top of their voices. And we're really engaged mostly with what we first see. But underneath what we first see, there's a layer of hurt. They're actually hurt about something. Underneath that layer is a layer of need, whether to be valued or to be cared for or to be listened to. And underneath that is a fear that it won't actually happen. And some of those fears actually can be rational or irrational. So if everyone was trained up in terms of looking at conflict resolution, in terms of looking at skills and choices and responsibility, what we would have is, we would still have conflicts because that's part of us as human beings. But what we'd be able to do is deal with the consequences and responsibilities of our actions.
At Ridgeway School in Devon, there is an ongoing commitment to emotional literacy through circle time.
Then as a secondary school teacher, when I first got asked if I would do circle time, I was kind of like, oh my God, they're in secondary school. And basically it's a forum where they discuss with one another issues that can either be national issues, issues within the group. It can be positive things, it could be negative things, it could be things where we're helping each other, and it's where they can build stronger relationships. And sometimes people within the circle would never ever talk to each other through the whole school year, even though they're in exactly the same classroom, but they do within the forum of the circle. Can we stand up and change places if you have an older brother or sister? I'm 28 years old now. The most stressful period of my life was probably from year 7 to 11 at school. I've been to university, I've done a PGCE course, you know, I've had some stressful times, but the most time where I felt the most stresses coming from all directions was at school. Can you raise your arm if at some point in the year you have felt frightened? Okay. I want you to tell me a positive quality about the person next to you. So think about something about that person that either you or you know other people see as a positive quality in that person. And it might be something that that person doesn't even know. So I think Nathaniel, he is very considerate.
I think Effie's good quality. She lets her opinions be heard.
When you're holding the mask, you are allowed to talk. It's almost a metaphor. They can hide behind the mask kind of thing a little bit.
Other people.
For me, the most powerful circle time that I ever had was basically about relationships and how sometimes we feel very alone in our home life. I mean, I talked to them a little bit about when my parents used to argue. It used to frighten me. Sometimes I delve into things that have happened to me, experiences that I've had. The children then look at me and think, oh, you know, she's willing to open up and tell us a little bit. And then they feel happy to open up. You know, you have to remain a constant professional at the same time. A lot of them talked about the fact that their parents had split up. And in this particular group, it worked out that over half of them had split parents. Just that knowing that that many people in the class were in a similar situation to them was a real eye-opener and a real relief. Like, goodness me, it's not only happening to me. By the end of the circle time, there were 6 or 7 students that were very, very moved, a couple of them to the point of tears. They came to me in the afternoon of that day and they said, Miss, we really enjoyed what we did this morning. It made us feel like we're not alone and we would like further help with these issues.
Chris will stick up for you when you're in trouble. Andrew's the best mate I've had. Miss Nicholson always listens to our problems.
Oh, most of the time, when I'm not too busy.
Peer mediation training is a conflict resolution strategy. The aim is to provide a peer-led scheme that can help solve a number of pupil problems and disputes.
They're going to be spending a lot of time learning about themselves so that they have a good understanding of their own hooks, triggers, buttons, those sorts of things, their own prejudices, the things that make them tick. My role then is to look at specific skills within that. So we're looking at how to be a good listener and breaking that down, talking about body language, talking about eye contact, talking about trust, respect, empathy, all of these skills.
Problems that are common at Ridgeway, I'm sure are common in other schools as well. It is the fallout of friendship. It is the misunderstanding of what is being said. It is the angry word. The look that someone is given that's misinterpreted, which students themselves can manage with the correct training.
Young people in our schools have to fit into their school. They have to fit into society. And so when it comes to actually being aware of our own prejudices, our own dislikes or likes, it can be really tricky for them to actually be able to say what they feel. If somebody doesn't like somebody because of the colour of their skin, there's no way that could be said. And so when I'm training, I have to give them the opportunity to, even if they don't vocalise it, they have to be able to accept that that's what they think and that's what they feel, because it doesn't go away just because somebody says it's wrong.
Because until you know yourselves, you're not safe mediators.
One of the things we need to be getting across to our young people is that conflict happens all the time. There's always conflict. How we deal with it is what counts. Giving them something to battle over can be quite an interesting way of them discovering a little bit about themselves. 5 suites, 3 people, 3 options, one which is definitely unfair, where nobody's going to get any sweets.
I want 3. I want 3. So you 2 fight over them.
How important is it for me to get those sweets, or whatever you said they were going to be? So whatever they represented for you. The people that got the most, who were they? The sharks. If I could give these people some titles, I would be saying that my shark is very aggressive. Would you agree?
The training offers a set of rules, ensuring that pupils operate within clear guidelines about how they work and with the kinds of issues that are appropriate. Further details on the mediation training featured in this programme can be found on the Teachers TV website.
And I can't do that if you're not sticking to the ground rules. So it's always trying to be encouraging all the way through.
We listen to both of you, or however many there is, we listen to all of you. We won't tell you how to solve your problem.
Okay. You're quite clear about that. So we're not here to decide who's right or wrong. No one's going to get into trouble.
For mediation to work well, it has to be a whole school initiative in which all staff are on board. At the very beginning, there were some who were cynical of it working, believing that 11, 12, 13-year-olds would not satisfactorily resolve conflicts. I'd like to think they've been pleasantly surprised.